Welcome to the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon to be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. And if you've not yet done so, please go ahead and subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if you think somebody might find this of interest, go ahead and share it with them as well. So I'd like to speak about retirement anxiety, the fear of running out of money. It's a big topic. People don't talk about what's called the downside of retirement, right? You do everything right, you follow the book, you save, and then you retire. And then what? Okay. I have a friend who retired about, I want to say 4 or 5 months ago. Since his retirement, he has flown to the Far East, I believe 4 or 5 trips to Europe. I think he's going even this week again to Eastern Europe. Um, Somebody who worked really, really hard and now is like throwing caution to the wind. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I'm not going to get into the person's finance. In fact, I have no idea what their finances are. I never talked about it. It's just an observation based on my experience that you have sort of a pent up retirement demand, as they say, right? You don't do anything and you don't do anything your whole life. And all of a sudden you hit, retirement age, you retire and then off you go. And as I've spoken about many times, right, travel is not a retirement plan. But let's take a step back. Let's say you're a typical retiree who does everything right, right? You max out your retirement accounts, you're always saving, you don't have debt, okay? You retire at 65 with a really, really nice nest egg. And you were, I don't want to say frugal, but you delayed gratification, let's say. You really were focused on saving and building your nest egg. Um, what happens? So, like this guy, like my friend, right? The first 2 years of retirement, you overspend on luxury travel, right? You give gifts to family members. You might do that renovation that you put in your home, which you're putting off for decades. And other might buy a car, I don't know, some other big ticket kinds of expenses. By year three, all of a sudden, okay, well, we've been on enough airlines, right? Airplanes, they've lost our baggage enough, so we're not doing that anymore, right? Cold water has been splashed on our face, and we start losing the excitement that we had when we entered retirement. And we take a look, at our net worth, and it's whittled down a little bit, and we start getting a little bit nervous. And that's when the anxiety starts setting in. And then what do? You go back to the other extreme, right? You cut your spending, right? You start eating tuna fish all day long, 3 times a day, right? You go nowhere, you do nothing, and you get all nervous because you're going to run out of money. Now, we want you to be somewhere in the middle, ultimately. That's what's really, really important here. And what's important, I would say, ultimately, is that before retirement, you should really set ground rules, right? How much money do we have? That plus any kind of pension we're going to have, Social Security, other forms of government pensions that are guaranteed, which are going to come in. If you have any real estate income, all the different sources of income. How much are you going to generate a month from those? And then take a look at what the rest of your net worth is, right? How much do you have invested? Figure that out. And then come up with a plan with how much do you think that you can expend, maybe sit with your advisor, right? How much do you think you can spend in the first couple of years of retirement? Maybe you can overspend a little bit, right? But you can't go crazy. You can't, use up a third of your retirement in the first 2 or 3 years of your retirement, right? Or your retirement's, your savings in the first couple of years of retirement, or else you're going to be really, really up the creek. Now, it's also important to note from my experience that spending in retirement is not, a flat line that goes like this. It usually goes like, here's retirement, it shoots up, it'll stay up for a while, and then it comes back down a little bit, and then it might go back up. Why is that? So when we hit 65 or 67 or 62 or whenever it is that you're going to retire, you're able-bodied, now's the time where you want to, I hate the word bucket list, but it's the time you're going to check things off of your bucket list, right? You wanted to go to, I don't know, Hawaii, or you wanted to go to Bulgaria, or you wanted to go to Iceland. I don't know, wherever it is you wanted to go, or you wanted to take an RV and travel across the United States, whatever, or you wanted to take, you wanted to take a photography course or a cooking course, class. I don't know, whatever it is you want to spend your money on. You tend to have all this energy because you're no longer working and you're active and you want to do stuff, so you do stuff. And that costs a little bit more. And while you're still able-bodied, and you should all the you viewers out here should all be healthy until 120. Really should. I wish you all a life and a retirement of health. You spend more money, right? And that's okay. That's to be expected because you have a lot of free time, and you've got a lot of energy, and you've got a body which is able to handle it. So go for it. But then what happens, let's say, is you get into mid to late 70s, you start slowing down, right? You might not be up for so many trips, so many long trips. I once had a client who spent like a month in Australia and New Zealand. And they were I think they were in the mid 70s already. And he said, you know what? I want to give you some advice. So you should go now. Go with your wife on one of these vacations now. Because when you get older, it's just hard. It's hard living out of the suitcase. It's hard packing up and moving to another hotel and going on another airplane. He goes, it was great. We had a great time, but it was really, really tiring for us. So we recommend you don't put those kinds of things off to your mid to late 70s, but you do them when you're a little bit younger because it'll be easier for you. So as we see, when you hit your mid 70s, late 70s, or you're slowing down. Then when you get into your 80s, it might, you're going to slow way down. And it might be that you can no longer take, that trip to that 4-week trip to Australia. Maybe you're going to have to go a lot more local. No more international travel, if that's what we're talking about, right? But you can certainly go somewhere local. You can take a long weekend. You can go for a week to a hotel, that's not very far away. Those kinds of things you can still do. But like I say, your spending might go down with it is probably going to go down. But there's one caveat, and that obviously is healthcare. If you merit the blessing that I just gave you, the aforementioned blessing that I gave you for health, then it won't be an issue. But if your health does start to become challenging, then healthcare costs come in, and that obviously is a different ball game, excuse me. So what you really need to do is sort of break up your retirement into different stages. Let's call stage 1, the active stage. Stage 2 is sort of the slowing down, but still sort of active stage. And then stage 3 is, when we're sort of getting on and we're much less active. We can still do stuff, but, health issues might come in to play. So you want to figure that at the beginning, your spending is going to be probably almost at its highest. And that's fine, and plan for that. And then, that's probably good you're good to go for probably a decade or so. And then things I say are going to start tailing off a little bit. You're not going to spend as much money because you're going to be, slowing down. And then, that number could stay constant as long as your health stays constant. But if you start with declining health, then your expenses might tick up again as you have to pay for healthcare. So it's really important that you plan. And again, feel free to call me, to email me, whatever. It pays to work with people, speak to somebody who actually has lots and lots of experience working with other people in this thing, because you might not be able to do it yourself. Or you might speak to friends about it, but nobody's going to divulge, their financial secrets, so to speak. And what's good for your friend might not be good for you because maybe they've got 5 times the amount of money that you have. You might not have suspected it, right? But they might be much better off than you. Or conversely, they might be worse off for you. And, they're planning on a more, let's say, a style of retirement, which is in line for their financial situations, which is the way it should be. So it really does pay to reach out, I think, to a professional who has lots of experience in this field so that you can get it right? Because we don't want a situation, we've seen it all the time, that you go out and you blow out a good chunk of your retirement at the beginning, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, what did we do? And then the next decade, you're nervous and your blood pressure skyrockets and blah, blah, blah. You don't want that situation. You don't want to have to be your money and your financial situation shouldn't be the focus of your retirement. It should be to do things that you want to do, spend time with family, continue to create memories, give, whatever those things are. But if it's all the time you're clicking refresh on your stock portfolio because you're not sure if you're going to make ends meet, that's a bad situation. Okay, so maybe you want to then speak to a professional. You've been tuning into the Aaron Katsman Show. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.